For 60 years, the official record said no team of black ball players ever beat the best that Major League Baseball had to offer. Not really, not enough to matter. That's the story they let stand. Kenesaw Mountain Landis, the first commissioner of baseball, made sure you'd never learn how often it happened, or how hard he worked to stop it from happening again. It's the 1930s. Segregation splits the sport in two. White stars play in the majors. Black stars, some of the best who ever lived, play in a separate world called the Negro Leagues. But every October, when the regular season ends, something dangerous happens. The two worlds collide: barnstorming tour, exhibition games, Big League All-Stars against Negro League All-Stars, town to town for cash in a hat and bragging rights. On paper, it's just baseball for fun. Off paper, it's a question nobody in charge wants answered. The question gets answered anyway. Satchel Paige takes the mound against a lineup of active Major League All-Stars and shuts them down. Not once. Repeatedly across multiple seasons in front of crowds that outnumber regular season Major League crowds. Josh Gibson hits balls out of parks that big leaguers call unhittable pitching. The box scores exist. Newspapers print them. Black papers cover them like championships because that's what they are. White dailies bury them on the inside pages if they run them at all. That's the first crack in the official story. It isn't that these games didn't happen. It's that the people keeping baseball's permanent record decided quietly that they wouldn't count. You'd think the obvious explanation is enough. Exhibitions don't count. Everyone knows that. Stats from barnstorming tour were never meant for the books. But that explanation doesn't survive contact with the money. These games outdrew the World Series in some cities. Promoters got rich. Players on both sides got paid more for a single barnstorming game than for a week in their regular league. If it was meaningless, nobody would have cared this much about who won. Somebody cared. And that's not the part they buried. Here's the part they buried. Landis didn't just let these games fade out on their own. He moved against them directly. Citing concerns about players getting hurt before next season, about gambling, about the integrity of the game. He pushed through restrictions that choked the barnstorming circuit, limiting how many games could be played, how many major leaguers could take part, how organized the tour could get. On the surface, cautious governance. Underneath, something else. Because the restrictions tightened hardest exactly when black teams started winning too consistently, drawing too many white fans, making the comparison too visible. A losing streak against Negro League talent wasn't just an embarrassment. It undercut the entire justification for keeping the leagues separate in the first place. If the best white players couldn't reliably beat the best black players, the color line wasn't protecting standards. It was protecting a lie, so the games got smaller, the coverage got thinner. And when Jackie Robinson finally broke through in 1947, the years before him didn't get folded into baseball's history. They got quietly filed as something that happened outside it. Negro League statistics weren't disputed. They were simply left out of the encyclopedia. Not wrong. Absent. For almost 60 years, that absence held, treated by the record books as if it were neutral, as if leaving something out were different from erasing it. It wasn't neutral. It cost men their place in history while they were still alive to feel the absence. Josh Gibson died in 1947, months before Robinson's debut, without ever being counted. Satchel Paige spent decades being treated as a folk legend instead of a documented statistical force. His real numbers scattered across newspapers nobody archived. Hall of Fame voters, working only from the official record, had no framework to properly measure players who by every surviving account were among the greatest to ever play. It wasn't until December 2020, 73 years after Gibson's death, that Major League Baseball formally reclassified the Negro Leagues as Major League, folding those buried statistics into the record for the first time. Josh Gibson's career numbers, once restored, surpassed Ty Cobb's. He'd been the best hitter in the sport's history the entire time. Nobody just checked. So ask yourself what official record actually means in a sport that spent decades deciding whose wins were worth writing down. The barnstorming box scores that survive are the ones newspapers happen to print and someone happened to save. Nobody knows how many games, how many no-hitters, how many nights a black pitcher humiliated a big league lineup, simply vanished because no one with the authority to make it permanent thought it was worth keeping. The record was corrected in 2020. But a correction only covers what someone bothered to look for. What didn't survive the 60 years isn't in any database, isn't in any file, isn't waiting to be found. It's just gone. And nobody currently keeping baseball's history can tell you how much.